Alright, so we're going to do 7.7b homework. Use the distributive property to find the product. Alright, so we are going to simply say 5x multiplied by parenthesis 2x minus 5 in parenthesis. We are going to multiply 5x by 2x. So the first one, I'll actually write this out. I won't write it out all the time. And then we'll say 5x times negative 5. So we have negative 5 times 5x. Alright, so 5 times 2 is 10, and then x times x is x squared, or you could think of it as x to the first power times x to the first power. 1 plus 1 is 2. Either way, you end up with x squared. Next, you're saying negative 5 times 5 is negative 25, and you just keep the x. The next problem is negative 2 multiplied by parenthesis 1 minus 2b. So you distribute the negative 2 to both the 1 and the negative 2b. So in this case, I'll not write out the intermediary step. I'll say negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and negative 2 times negative 2b is positive 4b. We're going to simplify by multiplying, so we distribute this. So we say n to the fifth power times n to the understood or implied first power. Then we say n to the fifth power times 9n to the understood or implied first power. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. You could distribute, or you could try to simplify within the parenthesis first. So there's implied or understood 1 coefficient on front of this n, and then we say 1n plus 9n, and that would give us 10n. Now, if I continue with the distribution, what we end up with is n to the fifth plus 1, which is n to the sixth, plus we carry the 9, and then we say n to the fifth power times n to the first power is again n to the sixth, and the implied or understood coefficient is 1. 1 n to the sixth power plus 9, n to the sixth power is 10 n to the sixth power. If instead you simplify within the parenthesis, you'll end up with n to the fifth power times 10 n to the first power, which will give me 10 n to the sixth power, because 5 plus 1 is 6. Either way, you get the correct answer. Okay, let's try the next one. In the next one, you don't have the option of simplifying within the parentheses because you have a 5m squared minus 3m cubed. And since these two terms, they have the same base, but they have different exponents. They're not like terms, and you cannot subtract them or combine them. Okay, so we are going to distribute. So we're going to say negative 8m squared multiplied by 5m squared. Negative 8 times positive 5 is negative 40. And m to the second times m to the second. 2 plus 2 is m to the fourth. Next we say negative 8m squared times negative 3m cubed. Negative 8 times negative 3 is a positive 24. And m squared times m to the third is m to the fifth, because 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, move on to the next one. Next, we distribute 11ab to the fifth power times 7a squared minus 3ab plus 5b squared. So we distribute it. So we say 11ab to the fifth power times 7a squared. We can break this apart a little bit. 11 times 7 is 77. And then we move on to the variables. A to the first place, understood first place if you don't see it. A to the first place times a to the second power is a to the third power. Then we have b to the fifth power. And there's no b on the second one, so we just keep the b to the fifth power. So next, minus. So we say 11 times negative 3. That would give me negative 33. And we have a to the first power times a to the first power. If you don't see it, you understand it's a 1. So we end up with a to the second power. Then we have a b to the fifth power times b to the understood or implied first power. So 5 plus 1 is 6. So we end up with b to the sixth power. And then finally, we distribute it to the third term within the parenthesis. So we say 11 times positive 5, which gives me a positive 55. We say a to the first power times, there is no a, so we just keep the a to the first power. You don't even need to write the 1 there if you don't want to. Then you say b to the fifth power times b to the second power. 5 plus 2 is 7. So this whole terrible thing right there is your answer. Okay, moving on to the next one. All right, so we say 4a squared times 5a squared. 4 times 5 is 20. A squared times a squared is a to the fourth power, because 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, next we say 4 times 4 is 16. We see a squared times a, understood to be the first power, is a cubed, because 2 plus 1 is 3. Then we say 4a squared times negative 2. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. and we just keep the a squared. Move on to the next problem. So we end up with negative 2x squared multiplied by negative 6x squared plus x minus 7. So we say negative 2 times negative 6 is a positive 12. And we say x squared times x squared is x to the 4th power, because 2 plus 2 is 4. Then we say negative 2 times positive 1, or you could just say a negative times a positive is a negative. So you just keep the negative 2. Then you say x squared times x, which is understood to be the first power. 2 plus 1 is 3, so you end up with x to the 3rd power. Then you say negative 2 times negative 7 gives me a positive 14, and then we just carry on over our x squared. Next, we move on to the next problem. We say 9x squared times x squared plus 9xy minus 8y squared. And the first one we distribute is 9x squared times x squared. So we keep the 9. And we say x squared times x squared is x to the 4th, because 2 plus 2 is 4. Next we say 9x squared times 9xy. 9 times 9 is 81. X squared times x to the understood or implied first power is x to the 3rd power, because 2 plus 1 is 3. And we say we just keep the y to the first power because it's an implied or understood first power, and there's no y in the first term that we're distributing. Next we say negative 9 times, or a positive 9 times a negative 8 is a negative 72. And we say x squared, there are no x's in the second one, so we just keep the x squared. And then there's a y squared in the second one, but there's no y in the first one, so we just keep the y squared. So next we're going to multiply a binomial by a trinomial. Same kind of process, but you're going to want to keep track of, make sure you multiply everything within the first set of the parentheses by everything within the second set of parentheses. So first we're going to distribute the first term to the second set of parentheses. So we're going to say 6x times 9x squared. So 6x times 9x squared, 6 times 9 is 54, and x to the implied or understood first power times x to the 2nd power is going to give me x to the 3rd power, because 1 plus 2 is 3. Next, we're going to say 6x times positive 7x. So 6 times 7 is a 42, and x to the first times x to the understood or implied first is going to be x squared, because 1 plus 1 is 2. Next, we're saying 6x times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. And because we have an x in the first one and no x's in the second one, we just bring along the x's. So after you finish distributing the first term within the first set of parentheses, now you have to distribute the second term within the second set of parentheses. So now we say 7 times 9x squared. 7 times 9 is 63, and you're just going to keep the x squared. Next, you're saying 7 times 7x. 7 times 7 is 49, and you're just going to keep the x. Then you say 7 times 6, which is 42, and you just keep the 42. Now you're going to combine like terms. The first time we have is 54x cubed. We don't see any other x cubes, so we don't have to combine that with anything. Next term we see are the squares. So it looks like we have a square and another square. So we have a couple like terms there. So we have 42x squared plus 63x squared, which would give me 105x squared. Next we have 36x and 49x. So 36 and 49 is 85x. And then finally we just have a little constant here at the end, so we're just going to tack that on. Tack that 42 on the end there. Alright, so move on to the next one. Same kind of process. We're going to be distributing. So we just have to keep track of distributing all the terms in the first set of parentheses to all the terms in the second set of parentheses. So in this case, we're going to say 3x minus 4 multiplied by x squared minus 3x plus 2. And so first we're going to distribute the 3x to the x squared. So 3x times x squared would give me 3x to the 3rd power, or 3x cubed, because 1 plus 2 is 3. And there's always an implied or understood 1 there if you don't see it. Okay, so then we say 3x times negative 3x. 3 times negative 3 is a negative 9. X times x, another, again, an implied or understood 1 on the second x, 1 plus 1 is 2, so we end up with x squared. Next we say 3x times 2 would give me a plus 6x. Now once you're done distributing the first term within the first parenthesis into the second parenthesis, now you have to distribute the second term. So we say negative 4 times x squared, so that gives me negative 4x squared. We say negative 4 times negative 3x, so that should give you a positive 12x. And then we say negative 4 times positive 8 gives me a negative 8. At this point, we're going to combine like terms. So we see that we start with a cube here, 3x cubed. We just bring it down because we don't have any other cubes. So now we can move on to a negative 9x squared. And over here we have a negative 4x squared. So those are like terms. So negative 9 plus negative 4 is negative 13. We have negative 13x squared. Then we have a positive 6x and a positive 12x, which should give us a positive 18x. And finally we have a negative 8 at the end. And we just keep the negative 8 at the end.